The Guardian UK said, not today. They just dropped not one, but two articles in their explosive new series, The Cost of the Crown. The series intends to expose the entrenched secrecy that surrounds the British royal family's wealth. I'm going to do one video per article giving my thoughts and takeaways from these pieces, but I definitely recommend that you read them for yourselves. They are lengthy, but they are incredibly well researched, and the people that worked on them deserve all the credit. Let's get started. The first article is titled How the British Royal Family Hides Its Wealth from the Public, and the first two paragraphs are explosive. It opens with questions such as, how much money will the coronation of King Charles III cost the British public? What tax rate will our new king pay on his private income? How much rent do Princess Beatrice and Eugenie, who are not working royals, pay for residences in royal palaces? Quote, in recent weeks, The Guardian has posed all of these questions to Buckingham Palace. The responses boil down to, ask someone else, work it out for yourself, or simply, you have no right to know. We beg to differ. Ooh, I love some British sass. For many reasons, this is not an article that the British royal family wants out right now. First of all, we have a coronation coming up, and there is an economic crisis. I also wonder if, for popularity and almost protectiveness surrounding Queen Elizabeth, if this story could have even run until after she passed. I think there's a larger story about the inability to critically examine Queen Elizabeth's reign. I'm not sure if it comes from the stories we've been told, the way we view her in the last 20 years or so as an elderly woman, etc. Within this article, they quote a 1992 speech given by Queen Elizabeth in which she says, quote, no institution, city, monarchy, whatever, should expect to be free from the scrutiny of those who give it their loyalty. And yet, that is exactly what The Guardian claims that the British monarchy, with assistance from the government, specifically the Tories, have done. This series seeks to understand, among other things, the personal enrichment of this family, how they have profited off their public roles, and how much value is the public really getting for the money that they give the British royal family versus the money that the British royal family brings into the UK and the Commonwealth. So again, this article is really laying the groundwork for what is to come in the series. And as they pointed out, one thing that isn't discussed a lot about Queen Elizabeth is, quote, the hallmark of her reign, entrenched secrecy, which has given rise to culture in which the British people are deprived of the most basic information about the monarchy. And they explain their research process in the ways in which they have been impeded from looking into any of this. One example is the Royal Archives. They're supposed to be open to any serious researcher, but they're private property of the Windsors, so you have to get permission from them before you can see them. They're also exempt from the Freedom of Information Act, which in retrospect makes the Black Spider memos even bigger of a deal. I did a series on this under my Apolitical Monarchy playlist, and this is when The Guardian was able to obtain memos written by Prince Charles to certain members of government, and only because it was written to members of government were they able to get it, not because they came from Prince Charles, because he's protected under the Freedom of Information Act. The Guardian claims to have obtained over the past 3 years, quote, official papers that revealed how the Queen and her advisors repeatedly abused the procedure of Crown consent to secretly alter British laws, including in 1973 as part of a successful bid to conceal her, quote, embarrassing private wealth from the public. Even things like the cost of security are shrouded in secrecy, despite the fact that other heads of state, including U.S. presidents, can publish details of the cost of their security. Which brings a central question to this series, which The Guardian poses, which is, quote, if the UK is going to have a royal family as its head of state, surely its citizens should have easier access to information about what exactly they do for them. This article also goes a little bit into how the royal family is funded. The previous system was a device called a civil list. It had been in practice since the 18th century. Quote, for all its flaws, it provided Parliament with a breakdown of how much money each member of the family was to be paid, and it gave elected representatives of the British people a regular chance to debate how much taxpayer money should be handed over to the unelected monarch. This is no longer in place. In 2011, there was the creation under David Cameron of the Sovereign Grant. So basically, they removed the part where parliamentarians debate how much they should receive. It's just a settlement that's handed over. And then there's also this question on sealed wills. Sealed wills have been used as a way to hide secret romances and other information one could glean about an individual after they passed. But the step of sealing Prince Philip's for 90 years was highly unusual. According to The Guardian, it exceeds the normal level of secrecy applied to government papers almost 5 times over. This ruling is now being cited by the National Archives as a way to justify hiding other public records that discuss the royal family's wealth. The Guardian tests this out by asking for 4 files of obscure members of the family like Helen, Duchess of Albany, and they're now sealed. So while this first article is an introduction to the series and gets into some of the secrecy surrounding the British royal family's wealth, how they use it, the wealth of family members, the second article really focuses in on profits brought in from their duchies. And this is where it gets even more interesting. Stay tuned.